Welcome back to Pen and Prosper, a podcast where JT Lawrence is teaching me, Mr. Delport, how to be a six-figure author, and we are putting it on the internet. We have a very, very, very special guest today, Oriana Leckert, who is of Kickstarter fame, but she is, although her name has become synonymous with Kickstarter, she has had a very colorful career. I have her bio open here, and I'd just like to pull up some of the highlights. Oriana has worked in and around media for more than a decade. She's been creative content director for Parlamenta, director of matchmaking at Gotham Ghostwriters, editor for Hyper Allergic, a copy editor at MTV News. That was super cool to read. Associate editor at Random House and a store manager in New York's famed Strand bookstore. She's also served as a freelance editor and offers a wide array of editorial services to individuals. Very, very cool. She also co-founded an all-girl graphic novel book club called Jugs and Capes.
Awesome.
I love it. We can join. And she
Yeah.
used to moonlight as Agent Brooklina for the book spying site Cover Spy. A lot going on there. I feel like that is a lot. She has done a lot, this woman, which is pretty incredible. And we
Yeah.
will get to chat to her about it soon.
She's also a published author. I don't know if you see that there. She
Yes.
published something a few years ago. Yeah.
Yes. Her first book came out in 2015, Brooklyn Spaces, 50 Hubs of Culture and
Yes.
Creativity. So, yes, I actually can't wait to chat to her, and I'm sure some of these things will come up. Before we bring her in, I think we a huge shout out to our sponsor, Vellum, without whom we would not be putting books on the internet because we would have run out of patience many, many moons ago. So, JT's going to let her in, and let's get cracking on.
Okay. Ariana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's not morning for you at all, is it?
It's 3 o'clock here in Scotland, and it's 5 o'clock where Delport is in South Africa. So look at us,
Oh.
international lady.
Nice. Very
Well-
impressive. Well, it's 10 a.m. here and I am almost fully awake, so hoping to bring you my best.
Well done. Well done. That's impressive. I've been
Yes,
looking
thank
forward to
you.
this interview for so long, Ariana. So thank you so much. I'll just introduce you to Delport.
Yeah.
She's an author. She's my co-host. We started this podcast together, and she's in South Africa, so it's not as easy for her to do a Kickstarter as it is for us. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that today because
Yes.
she's very keen too.
Yeah, I'm here for the learning.
Yes.
What do they say?
Awesome.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Oriana. I'm the head of publishing at Kickstarter.
There's so much more to that, but we have covered
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah, we were singing your praises earlier.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Ariana, yeah, it's just such a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you so much. What is the top thing you think authors should know about Kickstarter?
Wow, gosh. I mean, I think that thinking of Kickstarter more expansively than just a crowdfunding platform is probably the first step. I mean, obviously, you run a campaign to raise money, but it is also designed to help you build community, to bring you closer to your fans, to help you create a moment out of a more pedestrian book launch or project of creation. There's really a lot that goes into it and a lot that it can do to benefit you far beyond helping you raise the money to fund your dreams.
Absolutely. And also, there's so many new eyeballs on Kickstarter, aren't there? So when an author feels like they've really reached all the people they can through the avenues they already have, I think Kickstarter is such a great way to meet new readers.
Yeah, 100%. We track in your creator dashboard what percent of your backers are coming through your efforts versus through the broader Kickstarter ecosystem. On average, a publishing project will see like 25 to 30% of their backers coming through Kickstarter. So certainly
wow.
That's amazing.
yeah, I mean, that's not nothing, but it's also not everything. That is a good
Yes,
signal that,
yes.
you do need to bring your audience first. Kickstarter is
Absolutely.
designed to have an amplifying effect. So if you're, the more people who are backing, commenting, clicking, etc., that signals to our algorithm that people are interested in this, and that will help us surface it to a wider universe of folks who just don't realize they're your fans yet.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And-
These people
yeah,
are just
that's
sitting
amazing.
around waiting to throw money at a project.
Sure.
Like backing other creators. I mean, I think that's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah.
It is
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
I think that's, it's a combination of people who are like very accustomed to the Kickstarter process, for whom it is really exciting to be part of these sort of like creative journeys. And that combined with folks who like, they came one project before yours, they backed one, they're still figuring it out, but
Yeah.
maybe they backed a cozy mystery and you're doing another cozy mystery and they see, oh, wow, I came here for one author, but actually there's so much else for me to love on this platform. And that's
Yes.
helping something to make them part of the broader ecosystem. So the next time they'll be the like old hand veteran who's like, yeah, obviously
Yes.
I'm backing 10 more books this month.
What I also love is that as Kickstarter, you guys keep those readers engaged on further campaigns. So if you run one campaign, that's one thing, but then you get to basically keep those readers for the next one, and they get notified on for every project that you start after that. I
Yeah.
think that's incredible. That's
Yeah,
so
it's really an excellent way to like build your audience campaign by
yeah,
campaign, particularly because, once you've fulfilled your first campaign and people have seen, these gorgeous books, your incredible writing, that you are able to like deliver on your promises, they are so much more likely to want to jump on board the next time.
yeah, yeah. Delport, do you have any questions so far?
I mean, Kickstarter just seems like such an unfathomable process, even from the beginning. So my questions are kind of so baseline. I feel like they're wasted here. I think anyone watching is already getting involved, thinking seriously about it. So I'm just soaking it up. For now, it's just sounding a lot more like community than it is like funding, which is
Yes.
really, really cool. I
Yeah, I
always
think
saw
that's
it more as
absolutely
like,
right.
yeah, at face value, I saw it more like a like full crowdfunding. But the way you're speaking, yeah, it does feel like you kind of gain more of a community, which is really appealing. So yeah, tell
Yeah,
me more.
yeah, well, it's sort of designed, I think I alluded to this in the first answer, but like it's designed to collapse the boundaries between a creator and their audience, a writer and their readers, this sort of thing. And
Okay.
so we do that in a lot of ways. That's kind of baked into Kickstarter's DNA since long before, we sort of watched how all of these platforms can, with a flick of a wrist, sort of tweak their algorithm to a degree that all this work you've done to build your audience is suddenly like, no good.
Yes.
The way that you were reaching them just sort of stops working. Whereas on Kickstarter, we give you a ton of information during the campaign and after. You get a lot of demographic stats and info of like what time of day your people are backing, where they are in the world, what sort of device they're using, things like that. What brought them, obviously, we do like very granular referral reporting, which you can make even more granular. But also we encourage them to talk to you and you to talk to them. So,
Okay.
during a campaign, people are going to comment on your project. They're going to tell you, we wish you'd offered a reward like that, or we're so excited to be part of this journey. They're going to ask clarifying questions. They're going to tell you why they like what you're doing. And we encourage you to speak back to them. If you're trying to come up with your stretch goal, maybe you'll ask your backers, send them a poll. Would you rather have us make enamel pins or tote bags? What is like the most exciting element? We've seen some creators, Bonkers Romance is a great example. They basically told choose your own adventure stories in their backer updates, inviting people to like vote and comment, which again, like tells our
Wow.
algorithm how many people are like excited by this campaign. You're really bringing people into a creative journey, which
Okay.
can be very thrilling for folks on both sides.
Wow.
Okay. Is it kick? Is
Delport's
it
like,
kick? I'm like, yeah, would you start a Kickstarter during your creative process while you're still writing, or is it normally when you finish and you're ready to launch, and then you have this short, kind of intensive journey?
It can be whatever you want. I would say the majority of people in the book space, the majority of individual authors are probably done writing. Their book is like edited, typeset, designed. They're just raising money to support the printing
Okay.
costs. So that would,
Okay.
they'll close the campaign, they'll send the files and that money to the printer, and then their fulfillment timeline will be based on,
Okay.
where they're printing, where they are in the world, that sort of thing. We definitely do see people who are still in the writing process, who are still, maybe they're raising funds for an editor or to commission new art or things like that. It can be whatever you want. And, I think an important thing to keep, like, people ask me a lot of questions of like, what is normal? What is average? What is
mm,
everybody else doing? And like, it matters some, but that's not the full picture. What matters is, what does your audience want? What will they bear and support, and what's going to make them excited about being a part of what you're doing? And that can happen at any point in your creative process.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think being finished just gives you a little bit more. Because what about those authors who have these grand plans and then they don't ever finish? I mean, have you ever had a
Sure. Yep.
Kickstarter where something is it's not fulfilled?
I mean, ever, yes, absolutely. But I would say
Okay, not often.
the incident of complete non-fulfillment in publishing is very, very low. First of
very
all,
much.
you're trading on your own reputation. Like, I mean,
Mm.
Kickstarter is not going to come after you if you haven't
Yeah.
finished it, but your supporters will be very unhappy. It's going to make it
Yes.
much more difficult for you to ever ask them for money again, or for them to believe in you, if you really just like completely can't do
Yeah.
it. I would
Okay.
say in other categories it's different. We also have different standards in some of the like more gadgety categories where like people are managing like sort of international manufacturing processes. There's a lot more scrutiny of what you
Mm.
can't just sort of plop out a campaign that says, I'm going to make a new iPhone and like collect money. You have to demonstrate that that's really something you
Yes,
can.
you could do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say what's much more common is that people have delays. There are all sorts of expected and unexpected surprises and like things like that. And so I will say Kickstarter backers are, first of all, far less price sensitive, and second of all, much more forgiving of these kinds of issues than a sort of more general online book buyer because you are doing a different thing. You have to check a box when you back a Kickstarter campaign that says, yes, I understand that Kickstarter is not a store, rewards are not guaranteed. I'm participating in the process of creativity and things might change along the way. So people know that going in. And if so long as you are really transparent about what's gone wrong or why there's a shipping delay or what issue you had in various parts of the process, people get it because they want to support what you're doing, understand that like this can be, who knows what's going to happen as you move through from concept to fulfillment.
Yes. I love that.
Well, and I'll say here, maybe I should have said at the beginning, but like one of the most important things, if you and your listeners are even a little bit Kickstarter curious, the best thing you can do for yourself is back some projects. Find 5 campaigns and back them each for $1. It doesn't have to be a massive investment, but that does 2 things. It first of all helps you to experience things from a backer perspective. So you can see when things are working, what makes this fun and exciting and interesting and cool, but also because it will help you see what other people are doing. I wind up saying this in every interview I basically ever give, but like I'm an
It's so
expert
true though. You
Kickstarter.
can't get a real feeling until you actually go onto Kickstarter and see what's funding and
Totally.
see the high standard really of the graphics there and all the different creative rewards you can offer.
Well,
It's incredible.
exactly. All of the like brilliant things that other people are
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
I look at Kickstarter all day long, so I compile notes on like the coolest rewards, the most interesting backer updates, the loveliest pictures. And this is a process that is available to anyone. Kickstarter is like a vast historical repository of Kickstarter. Every campaign that has ever run continues to exist on the site. So you can research what different
Mhm.
rewards were offered and how many people backed them and like the ways that people are shaping their campaigns, the trope cards they use, like all of this information is available to anyone. So participating in campaigns, researching what other people have done, that will help you find the best tips and tricks and make them your own, much better than just like listening to me talk on a podcast.
I think
And then
also, sorry,
okay.
I think we also are our perfect customer. As an avid fantasy reader, I am my perfect customer profile. So if I go and back, I will know immediately what I'm wanting from it, what I would prefer to see and do. Do you know? And it will give you such idea generation for your own, not just watching what works, but watching what you maybe not getting from a campaign and that you would have loved to have seen.
Mm.
Absolutely.
I don't know what kind of rewards do you think do best? I know that you get asked this every time, and
That's okay.
it's such an
Oh, it's my
open-ended
favorite.
question because there's so
I
much you can do.
totally.
Like
No,
the sky's the limit. But what
I
have you
think
seen do
I
well?
think this is kind of the most exciting part of the Kickstarter proposition and how you differentiate your campaign from everyone else and also how you make sure that you're doing what your backers are going to want. So I'll first say it's very easy for me to sit here and say, all the rewards, the sky's the limit, anything you can imagine.
Yes.
Do please keep in mind that the more complicated your reward structure is, the more difficult your life will be when it comes to the fulfillment stage. So I am not here to help you ruin your life. Definitely
Good to
balance,
know.
what's wildly possible with what is practical for you early, especially for someone's like first, second, third campaign. We generally see like 5 to 7 reward tiers on average. So that's, probably going to start with your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover, the various iterations of the thing that you're making. And then you want to think about what you can build sort of above and below that, both that's going to make sense for you and that's going to be interesting. I would say below the physical book level, you probably just want to offer digital rewards. You don't need to be spending money to ship out like bookmarks and postcards and things
Mm.
like that by themselves. It's nice to offer like digital wallpaper of some of your favorite art. I often see like a 20-track playlist of like either a book soundtrack or songs you love to listen to while you write. People maybe do like a nicely designed PDF of like, if you like my work, here's 10 other authors I think would
Mm.
appeal to you.
Well,
And then building upward. Yeah. And then building upward, you can think about, first of all, do you want to make swag? People like swag, obviously, but swag involves more money, more
Mm.
logistics, more production. I would say often people will choose like one or nice and very relevant swag objects. I mean, I said enamel pins or tote bags. I'm not necessarily, I don't, most people don't need another tote bag. You can probably come up with something that's a little truer to what you're doing. An example I always give, there's a Why Choose Romance novelist named Kat Singleton. She made a run of candles that each one smelled like a different suitor in the book. Also
Wow.
Penny Reed, she writes her series is called Knitting in the City. Her protagonist obviously is a knitter. Penny has a friend who runs a yarn store who made a custom color of yarn that was only available through that campaign. Something like that that's like very personal that really like again like draws your backers in.
Yarn makers.
Well, but this I think is exactly the point. You might not
Yeah,
have
yeah.
somebody who owns a yarn store, but
Yeah,
I
but I
bet you
have a,
know
yeah.
somebody who makes cupcakes or
Mm.
caftans or
Mm.
pens, something
Or
that's
like
like
aprons for cozy mysteries.
the idea like to make it your own, your work, the
Yes.
elements of your creativity that are going to resonate with your people. And so figuring out which things like that. And, I mean, then you can get higher and higher. Another couple examples I always give, Cassie Clare, who's a bestselling YA fantasy novelist. In her campaign, she had I think for 200 or $500, she would write out a word or phrase from any of her books longhand so her backers could get it tattooed on their body.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Matt Dinneman, who
Goals.
writes,
That's goals right there.
yeah. Matt Dinneman, who writes Lit RPG, which is these
Yes,
like the big cast of characters in his first campaign, where he was still writing the next books in the series for
yes.
$666, he would kill you off in his next book, and for $777, he would let you live. So we've long seen like naming
So
rights. We'll name the
clever.
dragon after your dog. We'll name the villain after your mother-in-law. We'll name the hero after your son. But what Matt
Ah.
did was like he would like sit with you on a Zoom call, learn some things about your physical appearance and your preferences, and write a scene with a character that was just like you, except running around a dungeon killing monsters and either getting killed
Wow.
or not.
I
Yeah,
love
It's
that.
like giving creators a playground is what you've done. You've given them
totally.
a proper
Oh,
playground,
yeah,
like, and they
Yeah.
create the rides.
yeah, 100%.
That's so cool.
And I guess the interview wouldn't be complete if we didn't mention Brandon Sanderson.
Of course,
Yes.
yes.
And what was his final number? Do you remember?
It was just under 42 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you
Yeah,
imagine? Can you imagine? So
yep,
incredible. That
yep.
But
kind of
like you
put
say, yeah.
Kickstarter on the map for authors, I think. A lot of
Eh?
us had never heard of Kickstarter for authors until Brandon Sanderson did.
100%. It
It's been
did
around for other
change.
creatives, or is it just for authors? Kickstarter? No.
Oh, yeah, no, publishing is just a small part of Kickstarter, actually.
Okay, okay. Because
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
time
yeah,
I
yeah.
ever heard of anything like this was, I don't know if you know, remember Amanda Palmer? She was married to Neil Gaiman for a
Yeah,
while.
sure,
The
totally.
Dresden, I think, what was it? The Dresden Dolls or something was her band. And then she moved away from her label, and she famously, I think, was one of the first people to do like a really successful, I don't know if it was Kickstarter, like the name, but it was as
It was,
crowdfunding.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I listened to her
yeah.
audiobook about 10 years ago. She was talking about it. I was like, that is amazing. And they raised so much money for them that they managed to produce their whole album
Yeah,
without the studio, like on their own. Yeah.
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in its early, so yeah, let's see. I'm looking at one of her campaigns. This was from, I can't tell what year this is, but yeah, she raised over $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's so
And
interesting, hey? She's so
yeah,
interesting.
totally.
Hers must have been cool. She must have had very cool like things because she's very quirky,
Totally.
like very different, very
Yeah, well,
creative. Yeah.
and so in its early days when Kickstarter was born, it was really like music, art, and film were kind of like the biggest categories on the site. These days, that seesaw has really shifted. And so now games, gadgets, technology,
Mm.
design, those are sort of our biggest categories.
Wow.
Interestingly,
Okay.
publishing and comics have been the strongest, like the sort of, I call them like the Kickstarter backlist. both categories have increased by every metric every year since Kickstarter's
Oh,
inception. It's never been the highest category, but every single year we're raising, more dollars raised, more projects launched, more campaigns successful. Yeah, they're both just like steady growth year over year forever, which is very
That's
exciting to me.
amazing. And
Yeah,
how did
yeah.
you get involved with how did you get involved there? I was trying to just go back on your bio to see how long you've been.
Yeah, actually tomorrow I will have been at Kickstarter 7 years. I will never
Ah,
forget my start because I
wow.
started
are
on
you
my
itching?
birthday.
Are you itching?
Happy
7 year
birthday for
itch. You're not
tomorrow.
allowed to go anywhere, Ariana.
True, yeah, golly. Yeah, no, my career has been mo about half and half traditional book publishing and digital media. So I've worked in a lot of strange places across the publishing landscape. I started my career at Random House before it was Penguin Random House. I've been a matchmaker for ghostwriters, a researcher for a book packager, a reader for a literary agency, a bunch of things like that. I was also a freelance editor for many, many years for like 100 different small presses and websites and magazines all across the US. And then I also had a parallel career as like an arts and culture journalist. So I
Oh
actually
wow.
came to Kickstarter. Yeah.
Look old enough to have
Love
Becky's
this. And I'm
CV behind him.
disappointed. I'm very
Oh,
disappointed that you didn't bring up jugs and capes because it was the
oh,
highlight of me reading.
that's funny that you really have looked at my bio. I'll get to Jugs and Capes, but I came to Kickstarter to grow
Yes.
our journalism category actually. That was
Okay.
how I originally got hired in the end of 2018, which I did for about a year and a half. Then COVID happened, and so everything sort of like imploded. Things went very badly for Kickstarter. There were some pretty significant layoffs. I got laid off, but then I wound up getting rehired, and my boss, who had been the head of publishing, she got promoted and she wanted me to come in as the head of publishing, which was at that time publishing and journalism and comics. And so our bosses basically said, well, when you hired her, you convinced us that like she was the world's foremost expert on journalism. Now you expect us to believe she also knows about books and comics. And one of the ways in which I tried to prove myself was by talking about Jugs and Capes, which, so for your audience, this is an all-girls graphic novel book club that I
Oh,
have been doing
wow.
for 15 years. It was sort of
Wow.
Wow.
started on a lark, and like it's one of the most enduring things in my life. Very corny, but like once a month to sit down with a bunch of incredibly smart women and talk about graphic novels is like just one of the most like soul affirming
Cool.
and inspiring things, I've
Amazing.
really like ever done. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so that was, I mean, hopefully I had more to recommend me than having done a book club for a while, but yes, that is one of the things that
It
has
helps.
been a through line in my life. Yeah.
So you must love that comics are growing so fast on Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, so I used to run the comics category. So that gambit worked, by the way. In the end of 2020, I was rehired and promoted into the head of publishing role. After doing that for a couple of years, it was sort of decided that I was doing like between 2 and 10 people's jobs. So
Oh,
they split comics off, and now we have someone else who runs the comics
okay.
category. So I still love comics. I'm definitely, and there's a lot of creators who are sort of one foot in both worlds, but I am
Yes.
less intimately in touch with what's going on in comics the last couple of years than I was when that was my category as well.
I'm excited about the comic stuff because Russell Nohelty calls comics the seventh translation.
yes. I
Because
Oh,
love
we're
that's
that.
such a good
Yeah,
line.
because we're
I
all
love
into
that's
translations and
cool.
like, what do you do next? So now comics, and
Yeah.
he was looking for authors to work with. So I sent him the information about my books, and we might be doing a project together next year. So I'm super
Oh, I
excited
love
about
that.
that. Yeah,
Russell's the best. I just spent a lot of time with him at Author Nation
it's
a few weeks
wonderful.
ago. And yeah, that's really smart. It's a good point that like, Kickstarter can be an excellent place for like IP crossovers. I mean, again, think about this as fan service and what is it that your readers want, but have they always wanted to see your work in comic form? Maybe they've always wanted to see it as a tarot deck or a role-playing game. But there are like lots of other ways, and Kickstarter is such a
Yeah,
great proving ground because, it is all or nothing funding. It's a great place to sort of like try out a really ambitious idea because
yeah,
perhaps you will take a big swing and realize actually your audience is not that interested in a TTRPG based
yeah,
on your IP. And then guess what? If you don't reach your funding goal, you don't have to make the project. We don't ever
exactly.
want someone to have to like bring something to life without a complete budget and like a ready, willing, and excited audience. So
Yes.
I mean, conversely, maybe you'll rate way more than you expected. And now you can make a much more complicated TTRPG or a
Yeah.
tarot deck that comes in a beautiful gilded edged box and a velvet bag and all of these other things.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, Delport and I are always MVPing everything. and like testing things. So I think Kickstarter is a great way to do that kind of thing. I mean, if you were to ask my audience now if they wanted a comic of my work, I'm pretty sure they would say no. I would do it to reach
Sadly.
a brand new audience. And isn't it amazing how, like, with this IP crossover, and I'm just thinking of Russell calling comics a seventh translation. I mean, you can have a game as your eighth translation. And
Totally.
so it's really like translating your IP into so many different ways and seeing what sticks. And the great thing, as you said about Kickstarter, is if it doesn't fund, you don't have to do
Move
anything.
on to the next thing.
And it's
So what
data. You haven't
happens?
lost
So
anything.
what happens in that event? So do you then set kind of like, okay, this is what I need to reach, this is my goal. And if you don't reach that, does it just fall away and then nobody actually pays? It just kind of
That's
goes
exactly,
away.
yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, that's quite
So
nice.
on the technical side, no money actually changes hands until after
Okay.
the campaign is over. So if a campaign
Okay.
ends and it hasn't reached its goal, you don't have to pay anybody back because no money had
It's,
ever moved.
oh yeah,
It
limits
protects the
risk.
author. Like it sounds strict, but it actually protects the author.
That
And the investor, and the
Yes,
what do you
the
call
backers,
the
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 backers?
backers.
Yeah,
backers.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they kind of can go, well, if they I can put this money in because I know I'm not going to spend it unless it happens.
yeah,
I like that.
100%.
It's like such a safeguard.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the only thing I think some authors make the mistake in including all their costs that they would have to pay anyway in that amount. So by that I mean they're going to say, what's a cover going to cost me? What's editing going to cost me? What's formatting going to cost me? And then they put all that together and then put that in there as their goal. But in the meantime, you're going to be paying for that stuff anyway. You've written the book. You're going to be publishing on Amazon and maybe other retailers. So those
Mhm.
you're going to be paying for those things anyway. So I wouldn't include that in your target goal. I would treat that separately, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's also a decision that any author can and should make on their own for what makes sense. Speaking of Russell, I commissioned him year or so ago, maybe longer. He adapted a chapter of one of his Kickstarter books about budgeting for our site, which is like available for anyone. It's about how to make a good Kickstarter budget, where he talks about a lot of things like that. I would say, the fact that Kickstarter is all or nothing funding absolutely has an impact on how you determine your campaign goal. But I think it's a little bit, you should absolutely do a budget and understand all of your associated costs and what you will or won't pay yourself anyway. But when determining your goal, you also want to make sure that you have a balance between what you need and what you can get. You need to do a pretty honest assessment of your audience, of your avenues for promotion, of like all the levers that are available to you and what's likely to be possible. And I recommend setting your goal as a floor, not a ceiling. Like
Yes.
the minimum amount of money that you actually do really need to bring this project to life. And then hopefully, the all or nothing funding also tends to have this like tangible impact of like, propelling people to and often far beyond their funding goals. So making plans for what you will do with the excess, with stretch goals, various things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the ways that I recommend thinking about what you're going to ask for in your campaign.
Okay, great. Anthea Sharp's book, she says that quite often that your funding goal should be the floor and not the ceiling.
Another excellent Kickstarter advisor. Everyone should
Yeah, she's
look her
brilliant.
up and
I thought her book was so great. It's full of notes and highlights.
great.
And also, yeah, just to keep it, if you know you're going to go ahead with producing the book anyway, to keep that goal really low because you want to fund, even if you don't get a massive following on that first project, you want it to fund so you can start building that audience and, you start small and simple on your first project and you can build from there.
Yep.
And you learn the full process. Yeah, you don't want to kill your chances of learning before you've even got out the gates.
And Jonah Penn also, she keeps her initial goal very, very low. And then, I mean, she does very well on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kickstarter is not available for us yet, but are we able to support? Are we able to
Yeah.
internationally
So
get support?
you can back a
Okay.
Kickstarter from anywhere in the
Backing.
world. You just need to have
Okay.
a bank account or a credit card. These
Great.
rules, by the way, are not determined by us. Our payments are processed by Stripe. So it's
Okay.
actually their rules. So you can back a Kickstarter from anywhere in the world. You can launch a Kickstarter from anywhere with a Stripe approved like financial infrastructure. There's also something called Stripe Atlas that you can look into for if you are if you're in, India or Iran or like places that are not already set up for Stripe to send payments through. So I would
Okay.
look into that to see if that could be useful for where you are.
I've actually used
Okay.
Stripe
Thank you.
to set up my US business, Delport. They're brilliant.
I've got Stripe on Substack,
Yeah, Stripe,
but
and then
it's
Stripe
the mini
Atlas.
Stripe.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
the proper
Stripe
one.
Atlas is
We
like
get
the
Kindle.
international version, and you can actually
Okay.
start a company in the US, and it's not
Oh,
that expensive. I think it cost me $500.
okay.
Yeah. Ariana, when are we going to roll out to more countries with
Yeah,
Kickstarter?
it's a Stripe
Please.
question.
JT, please, if you could reach out to Stripe next week because now
But okay, so that's the Stripe issue. So in theory, you wouldn't have a problem with someone in South Africa starting a Kickstarter as long as legally they have it sorted out with Stripe. So
Yeah,
basically, like if Delport opens a US company, then she can run a Kickstarter.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. And let's say that I wanted to, no, this gets complicated because then I would have to run the Kickstarter. I'm just wondering, if I could help Delport with the location issue and I be the US company that she runs the Kickstarter through. But I think that sounds quite complicated with tax and that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say talk to a tax advisor and an accountant.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Yeah.
Kickstarter's part, we need a bank account in a country that's approved by Stripe and
Okay.
a
And that's
user
it.
ID that is valid in the world. What
Okay.
happens after that is kind
Yeah.
of
yeah,
up to you.
beyond your control, yeah.
Okay, but
Okay.
that makes
Okay.
it seem a lot more accessible. I think that'll be very helpful to the South African authors we know
Mhm.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I mean, basically, it's $500 to get yourself in the game then, which isn't that much if you want to take Kickstarter seriously and start doing a good amount of campaigns.
Yep.
If it's really part of your strategy, that $500 will be totally worth it.
Yep.
Did you say something about like 4 campaigns a year people are doing, or six, like people are doing like a lot of campaigns a year?
So yes, there are creators doing lots of campaigns in a year. I will say, our Kickstarter rules are that you have to completely fulfill your first
Mm.
campaign before you can launch your second. So if you're
Okay.
planning, to do many, keep that timeline in mind. We also basically, you have to do that for 4 campaigns. Our rules currently are that once you've completely run and fulfilled 4, you're considered a creator in good standing. Basically, you've demonstrated trust and reliability. And so after that, you can have overlapping fulfillment. This is specifically in books. The rules are different in different categories.
Okay.
Once a creator in good standing, you can have up to 6 with overlapping fulfillment. You cannot ever run 2 campaigns at once. You can't have 2 that are live at the same
Live.
time, but you can still be working on fulfilling while you launch the next one for up to 6
Okay.
campaigns. And again, all of this is just designed to make sure that we're not letting authors get in over their heads and get themselves in trouble. And
Yeah.
also so that, there's good trust on both sides. You don't want, as soon as you've finished a campaign, to go back to the same backers and ask them for more money. They're going to say, but what about, I just paid you some money. Shouldn't you
Yeah.
be working on being?
Working on that.
So we're really like making sure that but yeah, once you have worked yourself into a system, once you've demonstrated that you can do what you're saying and do it well, yeah, we're happy to let you have,
Okay.
these sort of like multiple campaigns running.
I don't know how people would keep track of that. Like the overwhelm, there's so much going on. I'm like, sure, that's a lot. But I suppose people that are focusing on kicks, that's their,
Yeah.
I suppose it
That's
just
the thing.
becomes formulaic for them.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be me next year because my strategy summed up in one word for 2026 is Kickstarter.
I love to hear it. Send me your project drafts. Let me know if you'd like any feedback. Tell me.
Thank you
But
so
yeah,
much.
it's great for me to know what's coming up in my category. So yes, please be in
Oh,
touch. Please
thank
ask
you.
questions
Oh,
as
Thank
they come
you.
up. It is both my job and my pleasure to help.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I'm never gonna, well, I'm saying this now, watch me like really stress out with my first Kickstarter campaign, but I'm feeling at the moment so excited about Kickstarter as a platform and just the possibilities there. And I don't think I'm gonna launch a book ever again without using Kickstarter first. I think Kickstarter first is my strategy now.
I love it.
And then
That's
go
wonderful.
wide, and then sorry, then go direct, then go wide, and then go into KU because then really you're touching all the points and reaching all the readers you can, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing.
You've
I'm
been
so
Yeah.
excited about this for a while. She's
I
been talking
have.
about Kickstarter for so, and it's just like every time we have an episode on something else, she manages to like just drop in.
I love to hear it.
It's
That's great.
really, I think next year is going to be really exciting for you, JT. I really do.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm going to need some help because I can't do so many on my own because I'm planning so many. But I think I'll do the first one on my own just for the learning and that kind of thing, and also spend that time looking for a really good team to help me with the others, just so that I'm not doing the small detailed stuff that someone else that I can take someone else to do while I'm writing the next book.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you have any suppliers and that kind of thing that you recommend that authors use in that kind of situation?
Yeah, so Kickstarter generally doesn't do too much in the way of like putting our thumb on the scale of recommendations. We really
Of
want,
course. Yeah.
everybody can do whatever they want. There is an experts page, kickstarter.com/experts, where there's a lot of different, there's printers and there's editors and there's things like that. But generally, we want to give people the option to do things however they would like. I would say though, there are a lot of author groups out in the world where these things are talked about. Anthea, who we were just discussing, she started a Facebook group called Kickstarter for Authors. It's like 7 or 8 thousand authors strong.
Yes,
She
I'm in
runs an
there.
incredibly tight ship. It's really all just people asking each other questions all day long of like, where'd you get your sprayed edges? What are you doing about shipping charges? Can anybody recommend a production house? Things like that. So I would really, rather than worrying about what Kickstarter thinks you should or shouldn't do, find other authors. This is all part of building your community
Mm.
anyway. But talk to people who have done this, who are doing it, who are undertaking the same research that you are. That's going to be the best way to figure out what's the right partners to work with, I think.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. It's so
I
exciting.
know
New
it
launch.
really is an exciting, like I think it's just, yeah, it's new and I think it's really going to invigorate you. I'm so excited. I've been riding JT's coattails for like close on a year now, maybe a bit more. And so I
A
love when
year. Are
she
you, are
starts
you
something. I
kidding?
love when she starts something new. And then I know that, it's in my future too.
That's great.
That's the way we do it. I talk about the three different phases of running a Kickstarter. Okay, so I know pre-launch is super, super, super important, and you
Mhm.
should not make your campaign live until you have, well, this is Anthea's guidance, at least 25 followers, which I think is great. I think I'd ideally like to wait for 50 followers, and then you keep your launch period quite tight, and then you do fulfillment, right? So can you talk to us more about the pre-launch phase and why it's so important?
Yeah, totally. So we see about a 30% conversion from pre-launch followers to project backers in the first 24 hours. That's why this number is really important. It's also so a pre-launch page, I should say, it's a cover page that sits at the same URL where your campaign will ultimately live, and it is designed to collect followers. That is its whole purpose. So this also gives you early signals about how your marketing is working. So if you're promoting that page very hard and you wind up with like 3 backers, then you maybe want to think of, or I'm sorry, 3 followers, you want to
Yeah.
maybe think about your messaging or how you've put this project together. You can always make tweaks and changes. If, on the other hand, you're promoting it lightly and people are following like crazy, that should calm some of that anxiety about whether folks are going to jump on as soon as you are live. And so pre-launch followers will get an email from Kickstarter the moment you launch. If they have not backed by the end of the campaign, they'll also get an email from Kickstarter 48 hours before the campaign ends and then another 8 hours before. So we're really working to like get them on board. So any of the work that you do to like get that follower count up is going to pay off very well for you once your campaign is live.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, and then the launch phase, Anthea says to keep it at around 21 days. Would you agree with that?
So conventional wisdom has been 30 days, about four
Okay.
weeks. I think there is actually a pretty solid argument for doing a shorter campaign. I would say for your first campaign, it still may make sense. Basically, every Kickstarter, vast majority of your action is going to happen the first week and the last week, honestly,
Yes.
like the first and last 48 hours. And so that period in the middle, things tend to plateau, which can be a little bit grim. It's a little bit bad for, but your work while running a campaign is figuring out how to keep the enthusiasm up, how to keep talking to your audience and reaching new backers and new potential supporters, this sort of thing. So, a 3-week campaign is fine. It just means that like things have to all work very well. You have to be really locked in and
Mm,
make sure. And, also keep in mind, not everyone who sees your campaign the first time is going to back it right away. People need to see it on a Facebook post and then also hear about it in a newsletter and then maybe also see it on an Instagram live, things like that before they're really. So the shorter your campaign period is, the more you're relying on like behavior that like people just jumping on really well. So I would probably still recommend for your first campaign giving it that full 4 weeks so that you have time. The last thing you want is for like a great book talk review to go out like the day after you've closed,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Yes.
So keep in mind that like it might be a little grueling in the middle, but I would give yourself that extra space. And then once you've seen how it works, I think probably bumping it down to a 3-week campaign for your next project is probably a
Okay.
good idea.
And has
And
anyone ever done like a 48-hour project?
You can, yeah. I mean, you can do anywhere from 1 to 60 days on Kickstarter.
Okay.
I've seen like 10-day projects. I'm not sure I've ever seen a 24-hour campaign, but you could do it. I could see an argument for it.
Yeah,
I
I can
wouldn't
imagine
do
doing
that
like
for
a
your first
48-hour
project.
campaign, and it's like you buy
Yeah.
it now or you lose out.
yeah, that would be great.
Just to
Oh,
say, so much Kickstarter relies on that like FOMO piece. So yeah,
yeah.
I guess you could really like activate that, in the quickest timeline possible.
The
Could be
FOMO
worth a try.
strategy.
So in that pre-period you're talking about before your, what did you call it? Your pre-launch
Pre-launch.
Pre-launch.
period. Is that when you as the author are now trying to drive as many people to your Kickstarter as possible? Because you said obviously the more that you bring in, the more it kind of
Followers.
flares that
Yeah,
algorithm in your
you want as
favor.
many followers as possible.
And
Um,
and also, I mean, that's the game the whole time in pre-launch, but also when
Yes,
you're live. You should be
yes.
trying to
To drive
drive as many
everybody
as
there.
possible.
Okay.
100%.
okay, so we've spoken about pre-launch and we've spoken about launch. Is there anything else we need to know about fulfillment?
I mean, there's everything that you need to know about. But I would say really make sure that you understand your process and what you're going to be in for before you launch. That means
Yes.
we talked about budgeting, but also, get samples from different printers, although those can be expensive, but like probably worth it both for like having good imagery in your campaign, but also really knowing that you can trust that the printer you've chosen is going to make the books the way that you want to. Also, the same for any merch that you're going to be producing, also understanding, timelines and what you're going to, making contingency plans. Okay, so what if we get 500 backers? Well, what if you get 5,000 backers? What if,
Mm,
can you still be fulfilling this in your living room with all the neighborhood kids
mm,
having a pizza party? What will you do if things go either much better or not much worse than
yes.
you expected? Like really, I think, being as prepared as possible for any number of different outcomes, that's all going to be really important as you head into fulfillment. So you will have reduced as much as possible the things that will surprise you in that phase.
Yes. Yeah, it's already a stressful time, I can imagine. So you don't really want surprises.
Yeah, you
Good,
really don't.
good to be prepared.
Can you specify territory in your so for
Yes, of
example, like
course.
if you were going to do beautiful signed copies, I mean for someone like me now, say we figure our work around and South Africa, we can now get Kickstarter, and I'm like, oh, one of my things is going to be beautiful signed special editions or whatever. Obviously, for me to send those anywhere else in the world, it would be so
Yeah.
expensive. So are you able to separate territory like this Kickstarter only applies to this area?
And you can set
Okay.
that per reward, per add-on. And I will also just say for someone in your situation, depending on where your audience is, I mean, if most of your audience is in South Africa, then you're
Then
fine.
yeah,
But if most of your audience is in the US where shipping costs are tremendous, I would recommend looking for
VAT.
a warehousing and fulfillment solution where the books are
Okay.
being sent to the fulfillment center, not
Yeah.
to you.
Okay.
Signing, you could do tip-ins, you could do book plates and send those over and let somebody
Okay.
do your fulfillment from the country from which you will be sending the most books.
So, but you could say, okay, for South Africa, I would have signed copies, and then for there, they wouldn't be signed. You could do that on the same campaign. Okay.
Absolutely.
I remember Anthea did tip-ins for one of her campaigns and it worked really well.
Yeah.
So what she did is she used a Chinese printer and well, everyone uses SESI, right? I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's SESE. And what you do is they send you the right stock, the pages that are going to go into the book. She signs them, she posts them back, and then they bind them into the final book. So that's how to do
That's
signed edition
amazing.
if you're printing in another country.
Okay. And then that stock then goes to your fulfillment company and off they
Yeah.
go. Okay. So there's a lot of logistics from the author. Like you really have to go into this with a lot of connections, a lot of pre-planning.
Not
There's a lot of
necessarily.
planning and research.
With these like technical aspects, you can really minimize the complexity of it because you can use a POD service like Book Vault. They still have special edition things that you can do, or like the spreaders and the foils and all of those. and then they will drop ship for you. So you don't even have
Okay.
to touch your book if you don't want to.
Okay.
Obviously, it limits your rewards. Like you can't do swag that way. If you want to do swag, it's a different thing. But like for your first campaign, you can keep it really simple. You can have an ebook, like a regular paperback or hardback, and a special edition. You don't even have to have a special edition. You
Okay.
can just have a nice looking paperback, and that can still be successful. So it can be you
Okay.
can make a very complicated campaign or a super simple one.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. And
You
by
know
the
me,
time
Delport.
I'm ready, it's going to be the most incredible Kickstarter in the world. I'm going to offer to kill off JT for 660.
Sure.
My top tier. My top tier. And then for 777, I'll just take out myself.
Oh my goodness.
Don't
Maybe
do
we could
that.
think of other things. I will say the highest reward tier you can do is $10,000. I
Oh
do
Oh
know
my
wow.
gosh.
someone who is this was not a book campaign, but she offered for $10,000 she would legally change her name to whatever the people wanted her to.
No.
And somebody did it. Somebody backed
No.
that board. Yeah. And then of course it wasn't even someone she knew. So she reached out and she was like, "Hi, okay,
Seriously?
what's my new name?" And they said, "Oh my God, no, we don't want you to change your name. We just really wanted to support what you're doing. And we wanted to make sure
Oh,
everyone
that's
was
amazing.
That's
Oh, that's amazing.
amazing.
That is honestly
yeah, yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
If I was throwing 10K at it, she would be changed.
I would hate to know what you would get up to there.
I have to think of it.
Delport, when you have a look at Kickstarter and just look at the different projects, look at the one that Matt Dinnerman who we spoke about earlier. He did so well, Oriana, didn't he? I think he
He
reached
did
like
so
$3
well.
million. Oh,
Yep.
I'm
Oh.
so chuffed for him. It's fantastic. He's such a great
He
guy.
is one of the sweetest men.
It is. He's
Could
so
not have
wonderful, and
happened to a better
I'm
guy.
so glad it went so well for him. But that's an example of like a seriously complex campaign, right? Like there were so
Okay.
many rewards, so many different bits and pieces, and then
Yep.
those, yeah, it's really quite something if you have a look at
Oh,
it.
I'm gonna go
And
and
it's
look.
also, and look not just at the campaign page itself, but look at the backer updates. That's really where, look at backer updates for Dinnaman, for Bonkers Romance, for, just like to see for Cassie Clare, her backer updates are extremely instructive. The like, yeah, you can turn it into a real complicated and thrilling journey for
Yeah.
everyone to be taking together.
So cool. Okay, I've got those. Bonkers Romance, Cassie Clare, and Devon. I can't.
Matt Dinnaman. And it's Cassandra Clare if you're Googling
Yes,
her.
yes,
Cassandra.
yes. No, no, no. I figured who that was. That's amazing. I mean, I've got some of her books. Like, it's crazy. You hear these big names, and
Nice.
it just okay.
We
Oh,
have
I'm
Joe
getting excited.
Abercrombie. Joe Abercrombie is on the platform right now. Lit Escalates is doing his campaign. He's at 1.5 million.
Oh wow. I'm gonna go have a look.
Yeah.
Joe Abercrombie, great. How do you guys feel about AI?
Well, I will tell you how Kickstarter's AI policy is essentially radical transparency. So we do require an AI disclosure on every campaign. We are not restricting its use. We are just expecting people to be very clear about
Mhm.
what they have used it for so that the backers can make a decision about how much and whether that's
Yes.
something they're good
Oh,
to
that's
support.
brilliant.
It's
Because
very
as
good. Yeah,
we
I think
said,
transparency is everything.
yeah.
It's
And as we've
fantastic.
said, Kickstarter's got, I think, 25 different creative categories that we needed to make a rule that would work.
Across the
Kickstarter's
board.
in the business of making there to be new creative things in the world. So, that can really run the gamut, I think, rather than trying to restrict
Yeah.
this like very cutting edge technology that's changing all the time. Just saying, as with so much on Kickstarter, Kickstarter allows you to make a compact with your supporters. Here's what we're doing. Do you want to support that? And so
Yes.
I think our AI policy is an extension of that.
Okay. I think that's brilliant. And then languages. Delpit and I are very much into translating our work into as many different languages as we can. And I was looking at Kickstarter the other day, and you guys do support certain foreign languages, and I was so excited to see that.
Yeah, I think the site is translated every day into, I think, 6 languages. Do I know Spanish, French, Italian, German, Japanese? I think there's one other. Yeah, maybe it's Chinese. It must be Chinese. I think.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not sure. But yes, absolutely. That will be done for you. You can choose your language and you can choose your currency with which to
Okay.
view through which to view Kickstarter. If you want to, I've seen campaigns in many other languages. You can write it that way yourself. You can have a multilingual campaign. We have a table of contents on the campaign page, so you can, for English, click here, for Dutch, click there, for
Mhm.
Korean, click there,
Oh,
that sort of
wow.
thing. I've also seen people they don't want their campaign to be too long, so they'll say at the top, this campaign is in English, but if you want to see it all written out in, Swahili, click here and they'll host that somewhere else on the internet and have the whole thing written in
Oh, wow.
whatever languages they want.
Okay.
Okay, and then like for an example, let's say I wanted to do a special edition box set of one of my urban fantasy series that do well in France. Then could I do a special Kickstarter campaign directed at French people and just run basically a French project?
Yeah,
Is that possible?
sure.
Wow, that's
Totally.
amazing. Delport, can you see why I'm going to run so many Kickstarters?
We both know what's going to happen when Italy hears that I am on Kickstarter. Oh no. Okay, it's going to be the biggest Italian campaign you have ever seen, Ariana.
Of my books in Italy.
That's so cool. What an excellent, I mean, great title. I love it.
So,
I've got so many more questions, but I think we should probably leave it at that. We've really taken so much of your
yes,
time.
so much of your time. We would
Thank
love
you
to have you back,
so,
so we don't
so
want to like
much.
overdo it in the first go.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would maybe you want to have me back when you're gearing up to run your next campaign.
Really?
Yes.
Certainly like talk about that on the
Oh,
air or whatever you want. I'm here, as I said.
I
This
would
is my job
absolutely
and my
love that.
pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ariana.
I
Okay.
think we should have Ariana back once you've run it and she can tell you everything you did wrong.
Okay.
Thank you. You've been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you so much, Ariana. Happy
Yeah,
birthday for tomorrow. I hope you have such a wonderful
Oh,
day.
that's the
thank you
thing.
so
Yeah.
And
much.
happy work anniversary.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thanks, Ariana.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Thanks, Ariana.
Bye.
So nice as well that she's so open to like when you're ready, just ask her for any
I know, I
advice.
couldn't
And
believe that.
that's amazing. I know I could see from your face. You were like, really? I know. I was like, oh, you've just made Jesse's day.
Yeah,
Fun.
absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I can see why you're so excited about Kickstarter, friend. Sure. It's amazing. Like it is
It's
amazing.
amazing.
But I
It's
think you
amazing.
have to really be ready to do it. Like when you're ready to do
Yes.
it, you need to do it properly. Like you can't
Yes.
muck it up or mess it up. Or I'm so excited to see how yours do. So when is yours going live?
Only when I have 50 followers. You know that I'm a bit stuck with the special edition design. I'm still working on it. I'm
Yes, so
still
you're
working
not
on
punting
book
it at
covers.
all.
I'm definitely not sending people there yet.
I really am excited for you to get cracking on. So I think you should fire the Kickstarter up sooner rather than later. Do you have a date? Like, are you saying like this is kind of when is it like December, January? No,
I
nothing.
don't have a date. I would like to launch in January.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's something to work towards, so that's cool.
Okay,
Okay,
then.
well, I think that was an amazing episode, and I think there's absolutely nothing we can say that can top that, so we may as well just see ourselves out.
Let's see ourselves out. Nice to see you,
Before,
Delport.
before we do that, we would like another big thank you to Bellum. Shout out to Bellum, without whom we would certainly not be putting anything on the internet, or if we were, it would be going a whole lot slower. And now we can thank our paid subs and Elise. We didn't have time in the intro, but as always, thank you to you guys. And yes, we will see everybody in the next episode.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.